Hello students, welcome to this Frames 5 video tutorial on sports. Please open Frames 5 from your application screen. Now there are a couple ways to proceed here. If you completed the sports tutorials last year and you have access to your sports file, then I would like you to open that file. If you don't have access to the file or you were not here last year to complete the previous tutorials, then I'd like you to go back to tutorial 1. Okay. So the first thing you might want to do is you might want to adjust your class here. So let's see what we've done. So let's click on frame 1 and click play. Now if you remember, we animated a ball pitched towards a bat striking that ball, hitting it out of the baseball diamond. The ball continues to fly through the air and it approaches a villain who hates baseball because he's evil. He gets what he deserves. He gets hit in the head with the baseball and gets knocked unconscious. Okay, so let's continue this story. So we've added a funny element at the end, so let's continue. All right, so this last frame here, if I remember the last time we left it at 3 seconds. So that's a little bit too long. So let's change this to 1 second and hit enter. All right, let's duplicate this frame. And let's immediately change this back to 0.2 seconds and hit enter. Let's turn the onion skin back on. Okay, you can turn it on here or you can go up to the view pull down menu and click on onion skin. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have the ball fall to the ground. Okay, that's the first thing we want to do. The next thing we want to do is we want to create a bump here on the side of his head to show his injury. Okay? So for this point, we might want to turn off the onion skin just because it's going to be pretty confusing. All right, so let's click on the shape tool and let's click on the circle tool. So what we want to do is we want to keep the stroke, let's see, gray. We want to match the color to his cloak. So it's not quite black, is it? It's a pretty dark gray. And then I want to also make the same color on the inside. Now we might have to do some adjusting. So let's put a little bump here, like that. And you got to ask yourself, is it the same color as his cloak? It might not be, so I might have to go a little bit darker. So let me go 1 spot darker here, and for the inside I'm going to go 1 spot darker. Now does that match better? It might even be too dark. So again, you might not get that exact gray, but I want you to get as close as you can. Okay, so the other thing too is, you notice I haven't created a circle. I'll put it over here. It's an oval. Okay? So if I put that oval back, I want to make sure that I rotate it so that it matches the angle of his cloak. You see how his hood here doesn't go down straight, it goes down at an angle. So I wanted to move that oval so that this control point, this little blue square, and this blue square kind of touch the cloak. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to move this bump behind the cloak. So make sure you've got the bump highlighted. Let's go to options and let's try send backward. Now if it doesn't work in one turn, you might have to do it again, send backward. Still hasn't worked. Let me keep going, send backward. Okay. So I've got a lot of things here. Send backward. Maybe I should try send to back. Is that going to work? Yes, it is going to work. Okay, so now I see that the bump is sticking out too much. So I'll move it in towards his head a bit more. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's the right spot for the bump. So I'm going to turn the onion skin back on. And you can see that it's not lined up to where the baseball hit the villain on the head. So I'm going to click on that bump and I'm going to move it down a bit. And there I can see that it is at the spot where the baseball, the previous image of the baseball, has hit the villain. I can actually even move it down a little bit further. Okay. All right. So I think we're ready to move on. So make sure everything is deselected and let's hit duplicate. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is we need to move the baseball as it falls down. That's the first thing we need to do. Then we need to click on the bump and we need to increase it a little bit, just a little bit, and then move it down and center it over the previous bump. See how the bump has gotten a little bit larger, not only in terms of how far it sticks out, but also in terms of its width. Okay, so let's deselect and duplicate. Let's continue having the ball fall down first, then click on the bump and increase its size slightly, just a little bit at a time. And again, center it over the previous bump. See how the bump's getting larger? Okay, deselect, duplicate. Let's click on the baseball and continue having it fall. Okay, and then click on the bump and then increase its size slightly and position it, center it over the previous bump. Okay, so we're going to continue. Deselect and duplicate. The ball should be getting towards the bottom edge of the frame. Click on the bump. So this time, what we want to do is we don't want to increase the width of the bump. We only want to increase how far the bump sticks out. So what we're looking for is you're looking for this tiny square here inside the control point. So we're going to click on that, and then I want you to start pulling it outwards like this. See how that changes the shape of the oval? It didn't change really the size of the oval, it just changed the shape. All right, deselect and duplicate. Continue the ball falling down. Then click on the bump and click on that little square again. And again, continue pulling it outwards so that the bump is getting really nasty. All right, deselect and duplicate. Continue the ball falling down. And maybe we can pull that bump out a little bit more. All right, deselect, duplicate. We want to continue the ball falling down. Maybe the bump is large enough now, so we can just leave the bump as it is. I'm going to deselect and duplicate, and I'm going to continue and have that ball fall right off the frame. I'm not going to touch the bump. I'm going to deselect and duplicate. I'm going to have the ball sitting here. Going to deselect and duplicate, and then finally going to have just the top tip of the ball showing at the edge of the frame. Going to deselect and duplicate, and then in the final frame I'm just going to get rid of the ball altogether. Okay. All right, let's turn off the onion skin. So let's see how realistic this looks. So let's rewind back to, let's say, this point right here. It doesn't matter how far you go. Just click on a frame and hit play. What we want to focus on now is we want to focus on how realistic that bump is going to look. See how that bump was growing? Very good. Okay, that looks pretty funny actually so far. Okay, so let's hit save. So this concludes this Frames 5 video tutorial on sports part 7. Please continue on with the next tutorial without calling Mr. Ueda over. Thanks for watching. Bye.